Welcome everybody once again to this Latino Book and Family Festival. Today we have a lot of things happening. First of all, we're going to go into a little bit of financials related conversation with Adriana Bruner. She's with MyPoint Credit Union. Then we're going to get into an Indigenous representation, a storytelling tradition that's with Cathleen, Chilcote, Wallac, with NativeTalk Storytellers. And later we're going to get a conversation with Congressman Mike Levin. Finally, we're going to end with Ballet Folklorico. That's with Jose Jaimes. That's going to be joining us here today. And at the end, we're going to give a couple raffles of a gift basket and a gift card from a cafecito. All right, so let's get started. First of all, we're going to have a presentation with Adriana Bruner. She's with my business. She's the business development manager at MyPoint Credit Union, helping individuals, families, and local businesses and everybody in between do more of the things they love. And so the organization has helped members basically for over 70 years. Now, their website, MyPointCU.com. All right, let me go ahead and get into the presentation for that.
Buenos días, good morning. I'm Adriana Bruner, Business Development Manager for MyPoint Credit Union, formerly Point Loma Credit Union. So happy to be here at the closing ceremony of the Family and Latin Book Festival. I'm a passionate and lover of Latin American literature myself. I'm from Colombia, and for a very long time, since I was actually in high school, I was reading some of the greatest Latino authors like Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Octavio Paz, Carlos Fuentes, Pablo Neruda, Gabriela Mistral. So I'm so happy that there is an organization that is supporting these authors that are coming into the field of literature, and also for our families to enjoy the beauty of bilingual and Latin American literature. So that's really, really fantastic. I want to show you a little bit about what strategies you can use for your children and families to save for the future. The Credit Union is a non-for-profit financial institution. So part of our goal is to educate the different families, educate you about what is important to save for the future and what type of financial decisions you should be making for your kids, your spouse, and your family in general. Establishing a savings fund or an emergency fund is something that every family needs to do, and we will highly recommend that it's between 5 to 10% of your income. So it sounds like a lot, and I understand. So what I mean is just try to put aside what you possibly can every month to start to establish that fund. On the other hand, for kids, it's important to teach them about the difference between wants and needs. With my daughter, for example, do you want a video game or you need it? So of course they will say that that's something that they really need, but it's not a need, it's a want. Needs are things that we need to survive. We need to pay our electricity, our mortgage, our auto loans. The rest, as I say, is just kind of decoration. Not that you have to stop living life, but it is important for them to see the difference. It is important for them to learn the value of work and what it takes to earn that money. So you can use chores and other things at your home where they can understand that working means earning an income. Having a piggy bank is a great idea. Once you have your piggy bank, make sure you explain to your child that you will divide it in four parts. The first part are the bills that need to be paid, right? As I mentioned, your regular utilities. The second part is savings. What are you saving for? What is your goal for savings? Are you going to buy a car in the future? You want to save for college? What are you saving for? The third part that is really interesting is investment. And I always give the example of a lemonade stand. That's actually a form of investment. You need lemons, ice, water, and cups, and you are actually selling a final product that becomes your investment. So there are some entrepreneurs out there, I'm sure. And the fourth part is charity. As Latinos, we need to make sure we are giving back to our community. That's actually really, really important. So make sure once you have that piggy bank, you choose them, that there are 4 main items and they need to recognize that. At the credit union, we have different products and services. I invite you to visit us at MyPointCU.com. I will quickly share with you our website. It's really interesting because you actually can take a look there with our podcast. We have articles. Here is our learning part. And if you click here with our partner Green Path Financial, it will take you actually to a website where you can learn about budgeting, financial literacy for families, how to buy your first car, and many, many more things. So that's all for me. I want you to enjoy the rest of the festival. If you need to reach out to me, my email address is A as Adriana, Brunner with 2 N's, ABRUNNER at MyPointCU.com. And it's a privilege to be here. Felicidades por este festival tan maravilloso y que disfruten. Hasta luego.
Thank you, Adriana, for sharing all that information with us. And before we go into our next session, I just want to mention to everybody that today during the live programming, we are going to have two raffles actually. One is El Cafecito gift card, which we didn't raffle last time at the end of the meeting. So today is going to be the day. And MyPoint Credit Union gift basket. So that's courtesy of MyPoint Credit Union, and you can visit them at MyPointCU.com. El Cafecito is located in Vista, California. Therefore, we will have to be local in order to receive that one. But all right, let's get started with our next presenter today. Our next presentation is about Indigenous representation and storytelling tradition. Our presenter, Cathleen Chilcote Wallac, with NativeTalk Storytellers. She is a storyteller, writer, and bilingual elementary school teacher. Through her NativeTalk storytelling presentations, she teaches Native California history and promotes cultural awareness in schools and other venues. Her book, The Gift Basket, and its curriculum guide are used by teachers in San Diego classrooms. Cathleen is involved in teacher education, curriculum development, and finding alternatives to the 4th grade mission project, NativeTalk.org. All right. Welcome, Cathleen. Welcome to this session. Please go ahead and, I mentioned a few things, but you're going to probably clarify what is all this about storytelling? What is this tradition that you have going on? It comes back from your ancestors, most likely.
Yes. First of all, Miyuyam. Hello, everyone. And just one little thing is actually my last name is Wallace with an E. Somehow the E was, so my name is Kathleen Chilcote Wallace, which is fine, but just so you can find me later. And my website is NativeTalk.org. So I am Luiseño. We call ourselves also Tahum, which means the people, or Payom Kawichum, which means people of the West. And I am an enrolled member in the San Luis Rey Band of Mission Indians. Our ancestral area is the Oceanside San Luis Rey Valley is where my ancestors had their village. However, the Luiseño people, the territory of the greater Luiseño group runs from about Carlsbad, Encinitas, all the way north to San Juan Capistrano, and then east to the Palomar Mountain and the foothills there. I would also like to acknowledge that there are 4 native groups which are indigenous to San Diego County, and those are the Kumeyaay, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla people. And so San Diego County has a very, very rich indigenous culture. And although often when I speak, when I do presentations, we speak about life in the past, long ago. But one thing that I really want people to understand is we are still here. We are still here. We are Living in modern times, I often tell my students, I watch Netflix and I enjoy going to In-N-Out for a burger, but I still tell the old stories. We sing our old songs. We still practice basket weaving. We still make our traditional houses called quicha. We do many, many things to preserve our culture and our traditions. And many of us are very involved in language revitalization as well, because there was a time long ago when we were not allowed to speak our language. And so it's very wonderful that today those efforts are blossoming and more people are becoming conversant in their native languages. Now, storytelling is a really important part of Native culture. Our stories carry our history down through generations. Our stories teach us how we need to take care of the earth. Our stories teach us how we need to behave with each other. Our stories teach us about the plants, when to gather, how to care for the plants. And long ago, even when boys and girls misbehaved, they were not scolded or punished, but they were told a story so they would know how to behave the next time. And in fact, that's how I grew up. Right now, even, I am sitting in a little house near the beach in Oceanside that was my grandmother's. This is where I spent a great deal of my childhood. And I was never scolded if I did something I shouldn't do, but I was always had to come into this very room where I am right now, the living room, and I would listen to a story. And that's how I would learn my lesson of how I needed to behave. So I come from a family of storytellers. I spent a great deal of time with my dear, dear grandmother, who was Luiseño, my uncle Andrew, Uncle Andy, who told wonderful, wonderful stories of the animal people. Now, it is said that long before man walked on earth, the animals lived here and they could talk. And so many of our earliest stories feature the animals as the characters. Now, today, we still continue telling those old stories and retelling them. And we also continue to create new stories. And in the introduction there, this book, The Gift Basket, is a story that I wrote based on traditional themes. The animal people appear in it, humans appear in it, and it's really based on a lot of information about plants and how we take care of the earth. Because when we go out and gather, we never take more than is needed. We always thank the plants for allowing us to gather, and we always leave something for someone the next day. Now, the story I would like to share with you today is a very, very old story, and it's been told on this land in San Diego County and particularly in North County for hundreds and hundreds of years. And this is my own retelling of this wonderful story, and it's called The Man Who Traveled West. Now, it begins with these words, Kalgush kuna, Yamaik Yamaik. Now, Yamaik means long, long ago. Kalgush kuna means I wasn't there. I didn't see it with my own two eyes, but this is what I'm told happened. So, the man who traveled west. Kalgush kuna, Yamaik Yamaik. It was long ago in those early days when the first people lived upon this land. And once there was a young Luiseño man who was a very good hunter and fisherman. He never took more than he needed, but he always provided plenty of food for his family and his people. Now, on one fine day, he decided that he would go out into the ocean to fish. The ocean provided us with many, many resources. So he took his Thule reed canoe down to the beach. He pushed it out into the waves, pushed it past the waves, and then climbed in and paddled out into the deep water. When he was out deep enough, He took out his fishing line, which was made of cordage. Cordage is just another word for rope or string. And tied to that fishing line of cordage were 6 fish hooks made from the abalone shell. He dropped his fishing line over the side of the canoe and he waited. Before long, he caught 3 fish. He pulled his fishing line up. He took the 3 fish off the hooks, put them into the tule reed canoe for safekeeping, and he needed 2 more fish before he returned to the village. So he dropped the fishing line over once again and waited for 2 more fish to bite. Well, while the man was waiting, the cool breeze that had been blowing over the water suddenly became a fierce, strong wind. A storm blew in and began to push the man in his canoe across the water, covering many miles. It was pushing him far, far to the west over many hours. All the man could do was hold on to the sides of his tule reed canoe. Eventually, the storm died down and the man could see land in the distance in front of him. He paddled to shore, pulled his boat up onto the beach, and he stood there and looked around. And he realized he was in a place he had never been before. People came out to greet him, and they were strangers. The man had never seen these people before, but he could understand bits of their language, and they were very friendly. And he understood that they were inviting him to stay and to live in their village. And he did so happily for quite some time. Oh, the man helped to hunt and fish. He built and repaired houses. He made tools and bows and arrows. He did many, many things to contribute to the life of the village. He learned to speak the language of his new friends, but as you can imagine, eventually he became lonely for his own people and his own village. And so he decided to take the risk of going back across the water once again. His new friends agreed that this was a good idea. And so they helped him build a nice, sturdy canoe. The night before he was to leave on his journey, his new friends held a big feast. Oh, there was wonderful food and singing and dancing. And they held this feast to thank the man for all that he contributed to the village. And at the end of the feast, his new friends gave him 2 gifts. One was a large shell that was filled with food that would replenish itself. It would fill up again whenever it was empty. And the second gift was a small bag that he was told he must never, ever open under any circumstances. No matter what, he could not open that bag. The man thanked his friends for the gifts. He put them inside his kicha, his house, that night. And the next day, when he was ready to start out on his journey, he safely put the gifts into his canoe. He said goodbye to his friends and he set off across the water. He was very lucky. The sun was shining in the sky. The ocean current was just right. The wind was just a nice warm breeze, not too strong. And the man was able to safely cross the water once again. This time, when he pulled his boat up onto the beach and looked around, he knew where he was. He was on the beach near his homeland. He looked up on the bluff on the hill above the beach, and he could see the women from his village gathering seeds and nuts and berries in their gathering baskets. Their willow bark skirts were blowing in the breeze. People came out to greet him. And this time he recognized the people. They were his brothers and his uncles and his cousins. The man was so grateful to be home once again that he gave that shell that was filled with food that would replenish itself whenever it was empty to a village elder, to a grandmother in the village, so that she would always have plenty of food to eat. He took that bag that he was never to open under any circumstances, and he put it inside his quicha, inside his house for safekeeping. Now, every day as the man came and went from his quicha, he saw that bag that he was never to open under any circumstances, and he wondered what was inside it. And each day, his curiosity grew and grew. One day, he almost opened the bag, but he stopped himself just in time. And he took that bag that he was never to open under any circumstances, and he put it at the far back of his house, at the far back of the quicha, and he covered it with deer skins and rabbit skins, because he thought that he could no longer see that bag. He would no longer think about it, and his curiosity would stop bothering him. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Still, the man continued to think about what might be in that bag that he was never to open under any circumstances. And finally, he could not stand it any longer. He went straight inside his quicha. He threw off the rabbit skins. He threw off the deer skins, and he grabbed that bag that he was never to open under any circumstances. He stepped outside of the quicha, and he stood there. He stood there holding the bag, and he was holding it so tightly that his hands began to shake. Finally, he could no longer control himself. He opened the bag. And as soon as he did so, hundreds and thousands of fleas came flying out of the bag, covering the man and covering the ground around him. And it is said, my friends, that that is how fleas came to be on our land. Hamutap, the end. Noshun Lovik. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was a very interesting story. Never heard of it before. Like many others, the ones that you might have. But you know, it's very interesting, the fact that as you were growing up, like your parents, your grandparents were already teaching you these stories and as a learning lesson. And so that's something that at least on my side, that never really happened. Stories to learn, to teach you. It was more stories of what has happened before, but.
But those are also important stories. Those are our family stories, which yes. I have many of those as well. And those are important to pass down as well. And, you know, my dear mother is 91 years old, and she talks a lot about her early days here in Oceanside. And I've told her, I gave her a notebook, and I said, you must write these down. We want to hear about the man down the street who had rabbits, that traded rabbit meat with grandma when she baked him pies with the fruit from her trees in the backyard here. Or, you know, how she used to go and work in the tomato fields and things like that. So these, and we all have stories. We all have family stories. And these are all stories that we can tell our children, we can write down. Children can save them, they can read them, and children can write their own stories as well. And so, and if anyone in the audience is interested in more, particularly Native American stories, on my website, I have quite an extensive reading list of Native American stories and other information, and just go to the website and click on resources, and it will take you right to the book list.
That will be NativeTalk.org.
That is correct. That is correct. And so I say to all of you, Noshun Lovik, which means thank you very much. And I I wish you happy storytelling and happy reading.
Well, thank you for being here. We are very happy that you were able to tell us your stories and a lot of things to learn.
Yes, there's always a lot to learn, and books are the best place to start.
Yes.
It was a beautiful story. Thank you so much, Kathleen. I really, really enjoyed it. And I hope many people call you as a result of you presenting here with us. And quite appropriately, I believe the 1st of November was the Native Indigenous Heritage Month, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So it was so appropriate to have you here.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you. It's just been a pleasure to meet everyone today. And I'm happy to share stories anytime.
All right.
Anytime at all. Okay, thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Noshin Lovik.